Hello guys, welcome to another episode of Clues, Cues and Reviews, and today we're looking at the most recent chapter of the Nanatsu no Taizai, The Seven Deadly Sins, chapter 201, which pretty much carries on from where we left off, still in the dream sequence or the flashback sequence or the memory sequence of the war, the Holy War, 3,000 years ago. Interesting, relatively simple, a few things to discuss. Without further ado, let's get into this review. So, the chapter is interesting because it covers a lot of points, but not enough to really do a 5-point review. So I have questions, I have theories, and I hope you enjoy my review. Anyway, so the chapter has a lot of different things I want to discuss. Number one, Elizabeth and Meliodas. They have a conversation that says, do you want to talk about what we discussed before? And we'll talk about that later. I wonder what that is. Is that to do with their relationship, or the fact that she's going to get reborn, or what's going to happen with that? We don't really find out, but what this does, and I like how the manga could do this kind of leads us down a path, gives us a question that we didn't want an answer for initially at this point, and leaves us with more questions. I like that because it keeps us wanting more to find out, okay, what did they want to discuss? You know, what was that they wanted to talk about? And I really like that. The second thing that I mentioned, that I wanted to mention in this was Meliodas' sword is a lot different from the ones he used before. It looked massive, it did damage. What's the situation with that? What's happened to that? What's the history behind that? What are the attributes and the strengths and weaknesses of that? I really like to find out. We don't really know, but he does kick ass in this chapter with it. So an interesting point to bear in mind. So they're heading to the Valley of the Fossils, like a Valley of the Dead, and it kind of reminds me of something they did earlier on in the Seven Deadly Sins when they went to find King and they went to the undead world. So it kind of reminiscent, and it kind of like reminds you of things that they've done before. So it was kind of like the Valley of the Dead, Valley of the Fossils, Valley of the King, so many valleys, Death Valley type of thing. So it was interesting. They find out that there was an ambush there, and basically they need to go help the humans. They get there, there's like loads of demons there, and they're kicking ass, and basically Meliodas is going in and he's doing his thing. He's powerful, and he's obviously on another level, which surprises them. So I'm assuming that this power is probably either as good as it is now when he's come back reborn with like less feelings, or a little bit greater than that, because they're like, oh, he's on a completely different level. They haven't seen him when he's returned, so I don't know how he compares, but they are surprised by this power. So that I found was interesting, because now, although in real terms people have seen that new power of his when he killed Fraudrin, but in reality these two haven't, because they were well away from the action at that moment in time. So I like the fact that this is their way of kind of seeing what he's capable of, and they'll at least be able to measure this up to where he is now, possibly setting up the potential for another power later on down the line. So I like how that's been included as a measuring stick. We get introduced to a former 10 Commandment member, Camaldio. I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right. Of the Betrayal. Now, his ability was interesting. His design was interesting first because he looked like that guy from Bleach. The guy who just takes a beating and keeps getting bigger. Him. The character has similar kind of design, but he's got this specific ability, but it kind of is very similar to Zeldris' ability, in the sense like it says don't run away from him and you'll be stricken by his ability, kind of like Zeldris, where if you turn your back on him, it's like you betrayed him and you effectively become his slave. So that was interesting because one of two things. Number one, we got to see another former 10 Commandment, right? That's the first thing. And number two, we got to find out about his power. Now, I was under the impression that, one person gets it, then someone takes over the ability, if they become a 10 Commandment, but that might not be the case. There might be more to it. It could also be that the strongest of the 10 Commandments of the generation were given the abilities or the curses, and this is like a secondary curse that maybe not as powerful. These are just speculation points, but that's interesting. And then reality hits Dianne and King. They start getting their asses kicked, but they realize, wait a minute, it's not as hurtful as they thought. Dianne realizes she's got super defense before she used her defense attack, and King realizes the original power of the Fairy King. So although he's a current Fairy King, what this ultimately does is it shows them through memories and experience, again, the bar So sometimes what happens, and this is I guess philosophical, is when you create a limitation for yourself, or when you realize, oh, this is as good as I'm going to be, you ultimately limit your potential and your growth. And I guess by doing this, they're ultimately thinking, you know what, I can be capable of more. There's more to me, whether it's super defense, whether it's more powerful attacks. And that's what this is showing, I guess. And I thought they were like, oh my god, we can fight on par with these people. And then it ends off with Kamadali, or whatever his name is, getting back up and saying, you basically Joeys of the goddesses, how dare you, let's fight. And they're like ready to fight, they're excited. I think this is good, because the more experience they get at this level, these RPMs of fighting, the more experience they can take into the current battles and evolve as people. How long we're going to go into this flashback, this story, I don't know, but ultimately what's important is we need to make the most to find out what we can in the previous storyline that Meliodas isn't telling us now in the current storyline. So this is a way for us to find out, the readers, to find out what happened way back when, the cause of the war, the outcome of the war, how did Dolo and Glashina become 10 Commandments, who were the other 10 Commandments at the time, because his two brothers were younger, Dolo and, I mean his two brothers, Meliodas, his brothers, Zeldris and Esterosa. And then obviously the people that Dolo and Glashina, how did they die? All this I want to find out about. So ultimately there could be like 4 or 5 10 Commandments that we find out about. But I'm all excited. More secrets are getting revealed. I can't wait for next week's chapter. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for reading the manga and following the series. Like, comment, subscribe, share and all that good stuff. And I'll see you next time. Peace.